Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗵 Myself 𝗘𝗀𝗀, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through WhatsApp, Facebook or any other media. Today we are going to learn topic the last lesson from subject English core, only for class 12 students. We shall discuss summary of this lesson. So, let's start our session. The last lesson summary, wrote by Alphonse Daudet, French short story writer and novelist. He summarized this lesson like this. Franz started for school very late that morning. He was afraid of being scolded because 𝗪𝗻𝗃 was to question them on participles, and he did not know the first word about them. He thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. The warm bright day, the chirping birds, and the Prussian soldiers drilling in the open field back of the sawmill were tempting. But he resisted the temptation and hurried off to school. There was a crowd in front of the bulletin board near the town hall. 𝗪𝗀𝗲, the blacksmith asked Franz not to go so fast. He assured the boy that he would get to his school in plenty of time. Usually there was a great bustle when the school began, but that day everything was as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window Franz saw his classmates, already in their places, and 𝗪𝗻𝗃 walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. Franz opened the door and went in. He blushed and was frightened. 𝗪𝗻𝗃 very kindly asked him to go to his place. Franz noticed that their teacher had put on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered. He wore these only on inspection and prize days. The village people were sitting quietly on the usually empty back benches. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer. 𝗪𝗻𝗃 said that it was the last lesson he would give them. Henceforth, only German was to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master would come the next day. This was their last lesson of French. He wanted them to be very attentive. Franz felt sorry that he had not learnt his lessons properly. The idea that 𝗪𝗻𝗃 was going away made the narrator forget all about his ruler, and how cranky he was. Now Franz understood why 𝗪𝗻𝗃 had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and why the old men of the village were sitting there. They had come to thank the master for his 40 years faithful service and to show their respect for the country that was theirs no more. 𝗪𝗻𝗃 asked Franz to recite, but he stood there silent. The teacher did not scold him. He confessed that his parents and he the teacher were at fault. Then he talked of the French language, the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical. He asked them to guard it among them and never forget it. Their language was the key to their prison. Then they had lesson in grammar and writing. The pigeons cooed very low on the roof. Franz thought if they would make even the pigeons sing in German. All the while 𝗪𝗻𝗃 was sitting motionless in his chair and gazing at one thing or the other. His sister was packing their trunks in the room above as they had to leave the country next day. After writing, they had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their 𝗣𝗶𝗆𝗄𝗆𝗏. Even old Hauser was crying. All at once the church clock struck 12 and then the midday prayers. At the same moment the trumpets of the Prussians, returning from drill, sounded under the windows. 𝗪𝗻𝗃 stood up. He wanted to speak, but something choked him. Then he took a piece of chalk and wrote on the blackboard as large as he could, 𝗣𝗿 la France. After this, he stopped and leaned his head against the wall. Without a word, he made a gesture with his hand to indicate that the school was dismissed and they might go. Thank you. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗵 Myself 𝗘𝗀𝗀, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. we shall learn about summary of last spring for class 12 students from subject English core. Last Spring, written by Indian writer 𝗍𝗔, is an excerpt from her book Last Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. In it, she analyzes the lives of children living in poverty. This chapter presents stories about two children who face poverty in all aspects of their lives and yet have the courage to dream big. The writer, 𝗍𝗔, is the narrator in both stories in the chapter. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. The narrator talks about a boy named 𝗘𝗵. He is a rag picker whom the narrator sees every morning. She talks to him and finds out that he came from 𝗘𝗀 long back when, according to his mother, his house was swept away by storms. That was the reason why his family had come here to earn a living. The narrator asks him to join a school, but he replies that there is no school in his neighborhood. The narrator promises him that she will start a school, and he is welcome there. 𝗘𝗵's face lights up. A few days later, 𝗘𝗵 comes up to the narrator, asking her if her school is ready. The narrator realizes that promises like these are made to children like 𝗘𝗵 all the time, and they are never kept. The narrator goes on to talk about how children in extreme poverty live and what the conditions surrounding them are like. She talks about how children walk barefoot on the streets, and the excuse given for this is that it's a tradition to walk barefoot. She thinks that more than tradition, it might be an excuse to justify a continuous state of poverty. She remembers another incident where a man from Udupi told her that he used to pray for a pair of shoes at a temple in his childhood. 30 years later, when the narrator visited the temple and the town, she could see a little boy walking in his shoes. Their prayers were answered. To give us a background of 𝗘𝗵, the narrator talks about Simapuri, a place near Delhi where the rag pickers who came from Bangladesh in 1971 settled down. They have not been given any identities or permits. Only ration cards are given to them that help them eat food and vote for politicians. They are deprived of any other rights. Over the years, rag picking has become an art for them. To a child like 𝗘𝗵, finding a rupee or a 10-rupee note is a big achievement. One day, she sees 𝗘𝗵 wearing a pair of tennis shoes. One of them had a hole in it, and it did not seem to bother him because it was a dream come true for a child who had always walked barefoot. Later, the narrator sees 𝗘𝗵 with a steel canister in his hand. She learns that he has started working at a tea stall recently, and is paid 800 rupees in addition to daily meals. When asked if he was happy with his new job, 𝗘𝗵 looked downcast. He was working under someone, and his freedom was taken away from him. He no longer had a carefree attitude, and the steel canister seemed heavier than the plastic bag that he used to carry for "I want to drive a car." This excerpt is about the fate of bangle makers in Firozabad. The author portrays the kind of poverty that looms over the houses and streets of bangle makers in this town. Mukesh, a young boy from Firozabad, takes the narrator to his house, where she discovers the grim conditions under which the people work around furnaces with high temperatures, without proper air or light. They do not know that it is illegal for children to be working under these kinds of conditions. The narrator observes that bangle making is done by people belonging to a particular caste specializing in it. The art has been passed down from parents to their children for generations. Even after the whole family worked at the bangle factory, they remained poor. Mukesh's family was not able to build a proper house yet. The same is the fate of other people living in this area. The sorrow and desperation of being unable to feed themselves, even 3 proper meals daily, reduced their courage to fight against the situation. When asked why they cannot form a cooperative to improve their living conditions, they said they fear being beaten and hauled away by the police for doing something illegal. Their fathers and forefathers were trapped by middlemen. The younger generations are still paying the price for that. The bangle makers are downtrodden due to the poverty and stigma of their caste. The narrator points out the presence of a vicious circle here, the involvement of sahukars, policemen, and middlemen who do not let these people rise up in society. Therefore no one dares to break away from this line of the profession, from this tragic world of poverty and suppression. Mukesh dreams of being a motor mechanic, and the narrator sees a flash of rebellion in his eyes. She asked him if he would like to be a pilot someday. Mukesh seemed embarrassed and replied that he was happy dreaming about being a motor mechanic. Flying a plane was a dream beyond his reach. Conclusion of Last Spring. The Last Spring summary shows how we humans create a vicious circle of suppression and torture for our fellow human beings that leads to a social and economic imbalance in society. While one class of human beings get to enjoy the benefits of human rights and identity, another class of human beings is subjected to fear of entrapment and punishment with the wrongful use of socio-economic politics. The most affected victims of these processes are innocent children who miss out on their rights as human beings when they are employed before they come of age, or are deprived of basic needs such as education, clothes, shelter and food. These children lead to another generation of impoverished and illiterate children, a vicious circle that keeps continuing till they are obliged to accept that it's their fate. Thank you. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗓𝗏𝗃𝗵 Myself Potlu, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about Summary of 𝗣𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀 for Class 12 students. Subject English Core. It is an extract from the book Men and Mountains by William Douglas. 𝗣𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀 is about the writer's journey of overcoming the fear of water, which is deeply rooted in him since childhood. The author started fearing water since the age of 4. It starts when he was visiting California with his father. He visits a beach where a wave knocks him down and sweeps over him. This terrifies the author, although the father laughs at this knowing it was no danger. However, this experience terrifies him and develops a fear of water. After that, when the author is 11 years old, he experiences another incident, which escalates his fear. He is at a swimming pool in Yakima, trying to learn swimming. On one fine day, a bully decides to pull a dangerous prank. He pushes him in the deep end of the pool, which frightens the author. He reaches 9 feet into the water, and starts struggling desperately to hold on to something. Moreover, he yells for help, but he starts feeling paralyzed and only his heart was moving now. Thus, he gives up and readies himself to die, but wakes up at the side of the pool. However, the terror he experiences while drowning never goes away. It continues to hunt him for many years and even spoiled his future expeditions concerning canoeing, swimming, fishing and more. He even visits marine lakes, Columbia, New Hampshire and more, but is not able to enjoy it. Thus, he decides to overcome this fear by hook or by crook. He enrolls himself in a swimming class and tries to learn from the instructor. The instructor teaches him many tips and tricks for swimming. He begins with the inhaling and exhaling part, then he practices it for many weeks. Further, he moves on to the kicking the legs on the side of the pool. Finally, he combines all this with the final move of swimming. Although the author knows how to swim, he is still terrified of water. Thus, in order to get rid of the fear, he decides to confront it. He mocks it by thinking, what can it really do? Consequently, he plunges into the water, and to his surprise, his fear goes away. He faced it in many places and at last, manages to conquer it. Conclusion of 𝗣𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀. To sum up, 𝗣𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀 summary, we learn that, if we are determined enough and have the courage, we can overcome any fear that comes our way without letting the fear overpower us. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗓𝗏𝗃𝗵 Myself Potlu, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about summary of the 𝗪𝗏 from subject English for class 12 students. Summary of the 𝗪𝗏. The 𝗪𝗏 is a short story written by 𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗏 about a man who lives a downtrodden life as a vagabond and poor 𝗪𝗏 seller. The story begins with a 𝗪𝗏 peddler who is in a rugged condition. He is dressed in rags and is very frail and looks starved. We learn he has no home and sometimes, even begs and stalls to survive in the world. He leads a lonely life with no one to care about him. One fine day, it strikes to him that this whole world is a 𝗪𝗏 itself. If we touch it, it will trap us and never let us go. He goes on to think that there are people out there who are already in this 𝗪𝗏 and reaching for the bite. On one cold evening, he reaches at a cottage to ask for shelter. An old crofter lived in that cottage who took in the peddler. The crofter needed company, so he welcomed the peddler. He gives him hot food and even tobacco to smoke. They play cards and start talking. The peddler learns that the crofter got 30 kroner for selling his cow which he keeps in a pouch on the window frame. The peddler leaves the next day, but after seeing the crofter leave his cottage, he comes back to steal the pouch of money. After stealing it, he takes the woods to remain unsuspected. In the wood, the peddler meets an iron master who mistakes him to be his old comrade. He invites him over for Christmas, but he refuses. After that, the iron master's daughter, 𝗟𝗏 visits him and insists him to stay with them. In between, he feels sorry for stealing the crofter's money. They help the peddler get a makeover and dress him in nice clothes and shave his beard off. After this, the iron master realizes he has made a mistake. The peddler was not his comrade. Thus, the iron master thinks he is a fraud and decides to turn him in. However, 𝗟𝗏 insists on letting him stay and celebrate Christmas with them. Her father agrees, and they celebrate Christmas together. Next day, the iron master and 𝗟𝗏 learn that the peddler was a thief through the church about the incident at the old crofter's. They head home in a hurry thinking he must have stolen all the silver. However, to their surprise, the peddler did not steal a thing. He left a note for 𝗟𝗏 in the form a tiny 𝗪𝗏. There was also a note thanking her for her kindness which saved him from the 𝗪𝗏 he got caught in. Most importantly, he also left the crofter's money asking to return it to him. Conclusion of the 𝗪𝗏. To sum up, the 𝗪𝗏 summary, we learn that we can change the world through kindness and compassion. In addition, it teaches us that materialistic things never bring inner joy, only love and respect does. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗵 Myself 𝗪𝗏𝗀, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about summary of 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗏 from subject English for class 12 students. Summary of 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗏. Louis Fisher narrates Gandhiji's struggle for the poor peasants of Champaran. This story is set in 1916 where Gandhi steps up to help a bunch of poor peasants from Champaran. It gives an account of how he struggled to bring them justice and equality. Thus, it begins with most of the arable land of Champaran that divides into a large estate. The owners of the estate are Englishmen and the workers are Indian tenants. We learn that the chief commercial crop on this land is indigo. Moreover, we also see that the landlords compel all the tenants to plant 15% of their indigo and submit the whole harvest in the form of rent. The tenants are under a long-term agreement to do so. However, Germany starts developing synthetic indigo. Thus, the British do not require the indigo crop anymore. Thus, in order to release the poor peasant from their agreement of 15%, they start demanding compensation. While some of the uneducated peasants agreed on this, the other did not agree. Thus, we notice that one of the sharecroppers, 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 arranges for a meeting with Gandhi. He meets him for the same issues and insists Gandhi to visit the place to end the long-standing injustice. Gandhi agrees and boards a train to Patna in Bihar. After that, 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 helps Gandhi visit the house of Rajendra Prasad, a lawyer. As Gandhi dresses simply, the servants thought of him to be a poor peasant. Thus, Gandhi planned before trying to get the peasants any justice. It is because the British government are punishing anyone who is keeping national leaders or protesters. Thus, when Gandhi arrived in the place, the news of his arrival and mission spread across the town like wildfire. This resulted in a lot of lawyers and peasant groups pouring in large numbers in his support. Consequently, the lawyers did accept that the charges are quite high and too unreasonable for a poor peasant. However, Gandhi was criticizing them for collecting huge fees from the sharecroppers. He was emphasizing on counseling as this will provide the peasants with confidence to fight their fear. Thus, he manages to get justice after a year-long fight for the peasants. He has also arranged for the education, health, and hygiene for the families of the poor peasants. Finally, he teaches them a lesson of self-sufficiency and self-confidence. Conclusion of Indiga. To sum up, Indiga summary, we learn how Gandhiji did not merely help in freeing India, but was always working for the betterment of his countrymen from the very start. Thank you. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗓𝗏𝗃𝗵 myself 𝗘𝗏, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about summary of the poets and pancakes from subject English for class 12 students. Summary of poets and pancakes. Poets and Pancakes is an extract from 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's book 𝗦𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. The lesson begins with 𝗟𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 telling us about Gsgemini Studios. We learn about the very popular makeup brand whose name was Pancakes. The Gemini Studios use this brand excessively and orders truckloads of their products. After that, he goes on to tell the readers about the troubles the actors and actresses face. We learn about the many lights glaring in their faces when they are getting ready in the makeup room. Moreover, he also mentions how the makeup department uses loads of makeup to make them look ugly. He also tells us about the office boy in the makeup department. He has a job to slap paint, during crowd shooting, on the faces of players. Further, we learn that the author is a poet who joins the studio to become an actor, screenwriter, director or lyricist. He has a cubicle to work where he has to collect newspaper cuttings. The office boy always came in with his complaints to the author. The author thinks that Subbu is the one who troubles him. As Subbu is a Brahmin, the author thinks he has an upper hand. We see that Subbu is a resourceful man with a loyalty that sets him apart. Subbu is the perfect one for films and film making is impossible without him. Everyone loves Subbu for being friendly and hospitable. Along with many others, Subbu also does poetry. He works for the story department that also has a lawyer. However, people considered him to be the exact opposite of a legal consultant. Moreover, he is a logical man with a neutral mindset in a group where there are only dreamers. After that, we learn how the Gemini Studios got the opportunity to host the 𝗟R𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 student army. While they did not have very complex plots or messages, their sets and costumes were almost perfect. Further, another guest, Stephen Spender, makes a widget to Gemini Studios. However, turns out, he is not that famous and many people have not even heard of him. Moreover, owing to language barriers, many could not understand him. Thus, his widget remained a mystery until after many years the author saw Stephen's name in a book and recognized him from his widget to the studio. Conclusion of Poets and Pancakes. To sum up, poets and pancakes summary, we learn about the film industry in detail and the inside functioning as well as when independent India was in its infancy. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗓𝗏𝗃𝗵 Myself Potlu, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about summary of the interview from subject English for class 12 students. Summary of the interview. The narration, the interview, written by 𝗘HP𝗴𝗃𝗏. The chapter starts with the author introducing us to the method of an interview. We learn that it is pretty common in journalism, and its origin dates back to 130 years before. He expresses that unsurprisingly, various people carry different opinions about the concept of the interview and its uses. Some people think of it very highly while others cannot bear giving an interview. The chapter tells us that an interview can make a lasting impression. Moreover, as per an old saying, when we make perceptions about a particular person, the original identity of their soul is taken away. We learn how the most popular celebrities have criticized interviews. Similarly, Rudyard Kipling's wife writes, in her diary about how two reporters in Boston ruined her. He thinks of interviewing as an assault. Moreover, he even believes that this crime should have a punishment. Further, Kipling is of the thinking that no respectable person asks for or gives an interview. Moreover, this chapter also contains an excerpt from an interview between Mukund, belonging to the Hindu newspaper, and 𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗃. 𝗪𝘂𝗃 is a professor at the University of Bologna in Italy. He has a daunting status as a scholar for his philosophies on semiotics, the study of signs, literary interpretation, and medieval aesthetics before taking up writing fiction. In the interview, we see it centers on his successful novel, The Name of the Rose. His novel sold more than 10 million copies. Mukund begins by asking him how he manages to do such different things. 𝗪𝘀𝗀𝗃 replies saying he is doing the same thing. Further, he goes on to justify his books that revolve around peace and non-violence. We learn that 𝗪𝘀𝗀 classifies himself as an academic scholar. He attends various academic conferences throughout the week and writes novels on Sundays. Moreover, he expresses that others considering him as a novelist and not scholar does not affect him at all. He agrees it is rather tough to influence millions of people with academic work. Moreover, we also learn how he believes that our lives have empty spaces like the ones in atoms. He refers to them as interstices and admits that he does most of his productive work in the course of that time. Speaking about his novel, he remarks that it is not an easy read. It has got a detective feature to it alongside metaphysics, theology and medieval history. Similarly, he thinks that if he wrote the novel 10 years earlier or later, it would not have achieved the same success. Thus, the reason for the success of the novel remains a mystery. Conclusion of the interview. To sum up the interview summary, we learn how many people differ when it comes to interviews. Nonetheless, they are very interesting and informative as seen from 𝗪𝘀𝗀's interview. Thank you. Hello friends. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome back to our channel. 𝗓𝗏𝗃𝗵 Myself Potlu, your friend and Prakash friend. Please subscribe my channel, like it and share it to your maximum friends circle or needy friends through your WhatsApp, Facebook or any social media. We shall learn about summary of going places from subject English for class 12 students. Summary of going places. The chapter Going Places, written by 𝗟𝘀𝗀𝗃 Barton, discusses about the teenagers and their dreams. The story begins by telling the reader about a teenage girl, Sophie. Being a normal teenager, she has also got many fantasies and dreams. Sophie belongs to a lower middle class family that struggles with finances. However, she dreams to own a boutique one day. Further, she also dreams of becoming an actress or a fashion designer. Similarly, 𝗙ance, her friend, is more practical and level-headed. She knows that they do not have a strong financial background, thus they have to work in a biscuit factory. 𝗙ance does not have any unachievable fantasies. She tries her best to help Sophie stay in touch with reality, but all that goes in vain as Sophie does not listen. Sophie has got 2 brothers, and lives with her parents in a small house. She does not shy away from expressing her desires and fantasies. However, her parents do not pay much heed to it as they are far more mature than her. They are already facing the harsh realities of life, thus, they do not believe in her fantasies. Sophie's elder brother is Jeff, who is tall, strong, and handsome, and remains reserved. She is sort of fascinated by her elder brother. It is so because his silence makes her jealous and wonders what he keeps thinking about. Further, we learn that Sophie is always fantasizing about a young Irish football player, 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗃. She has seen him play in a number of matches and thus starts liking him. As she is always living in her fantasy world, she makes up stories about him. In one made-up story, she tells her elder brother, Jeff, that they met one day in the streets. Being more sensible, Jeff does not believe her story. He feels it is highly unlikely that she just met such a sensation in the streets, just like that. However, as Sophie is so good at immersing herself in fantasy land, she starts describing lifelike details. Thus, upon hearing these details, even Jeff wishes that what she was saying turns out to be true. She even goes on to say that they will meet again as 𝗘ance has promised her. Thus, Sophie immerses herself so much in the make-believe story that she starts thinking of it as true. She keeps waiting for 𝗘ance to arrive, but alas he does not. Thus, on the way back, she is thinking about how 𝗘ance not turning up will disappoint Jeff. Nonetheless, she still keeps fantasizing about him and believes they will definitely meet. Conclusion of Going Places. To sum up, Going Places summary, we learn about the naive fantasies of teenagers and how reality may hit us harder as the world, in full of compromises and costs a lot of dreams.